They call the boss, Bruce Springsteen and Dancing in the Dark on BBC Radio at 10 minutes past 10 of a Friday morning. It's Jonathan Cowart with you through until 1. The travel news coming up in around about 15 minutes' time. In just a moment or two, you can hear my next guest live on the programme talking about a condition that affects his life in the most extraordinary way. It's got to be one of the rarest medical conditions that there is, and the sort of impact that it can have on someone's life, well, you can hear from the man himself in just a moment.
BBC Radio York.
We've got this varroa mite, which is causing a great deal.
Now then, my guest on the programme this morning has got an extraordinary story to tell. I think when you've heard him tell it, you will agree. Because for most of us, hygiene is simply a question of a daily wash, a bath or a shower or something like that. Maybe a spot of deodorant, dab of aftershave here or there, or maybe a little eau de toilette. However, for one man who lives in the Harrogate area, the chemicals in his body, in which you and me are, they're there, but they are entirely odourless. In him, they produce a smell which can fill an entire hall. And that smell is unpleasant. It, by all accounts, resembles the smell of rotting fish. The result is that he hasn't been out for a very long time. He hasn't been to the shops. He hasn't been down the pub for a pint, been into a restaurant or anything like that for 10 years or more. Gary Laker joins me now from his home in Hamswaite. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Well as can be.
Now, people will guess immediately that you're not from this neck of the woods. Your accent gives that away straight away. Whereabouts are you from?
I'm from Fulham in London.
And how long have you lived around here?
Since 1977, 78, something like that.
Right. And what's your story? How does a man from Fulham come to be in this part of the world?
Well, family had moved up here, and I just thought, well, you know, I needed somewhere to go. I'd split up with my first wife and just came up here and loved it. Right,
and you've been here ever since and part of the North Yorkshire community.
That's it. I've got my passport now.
Yeah, well, it can take a while or two. This condition that I've made reference to that you have, it has a proper medical name that I have looked at on the internet and I have grappled with trying to pronounce it. I mean, I've described it as it is called rotting fish disease by some people, isn't it? But it does actually have a proper medical name, which I'm assuming you will know.
How well I say it, I don't know, but it's Trimethylaminuria.
Well, you make a better stab at it than I would. How long have you had the problem?
That I know about 15 years.
When did you first realise something was wrong?
I got picked up in the mornings by a friend, and one morning there was 2 air fresheners hanging on the sun visor right in front of me, and I thought, this is a joke, I don't know. So I said, just messing around, I said, you trying to sell me something? And he said, well, it's not me, it's my wife. He said, she reckons the car stinks every time you've been in it.
That must be the most appalling thing to be told, because we're all very sensitive. You know, if you've put an old shirt on that you've worn for a couple of days and someone says, "Woof, you're a bit whiffy," you sort of go away with your tail between your legs, feeling a bit hurt by that. How did you feel when this was first drawn to your attention?
Well, I didn't believe it. I just thought maybe it's my feet, maybe it's something. I don't know. I really didn't think it was anything major. It was just that. I don't know. I just started noticing people looking and more comments, and because it had been pointed out, I just thought, hang on, there is something. So I went to see the doctor.
And did the doctor know what was wrong? Because your condition is a very rare one.
No, he said that I didn't smell to him, and he said, he didn't think there was any problem. And after repetitive times of me going, they put me down as a hypochondriac. Oh,
right. So it was in your imagination as far as they were concerned.
That's it.
So you've got the double worry now of being told by some people that you have this strong odour about you. You've got the other worry of being told by the medical people that actually it's all in your mind.
Yeah, and worse, they told my wife it was in my mind, so she believed them. And because she believed them, she didn't believe me.
Could she not smell the smell for herself, or is
not at all?
Isn't that strange? So maybe the smell is only detectable by some other people, or can anybody smell it?
No, it's approximately 50% of the population can smell it, and even the ones who can are in varying degrees.
What sort of reaction do you get from people? Has it been the same all the way through having the disease?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
I mean, people, you know, we've been in restaurants and people have complained and said we can't stand this, and got up and gone. We've had people, but you see, my wife didn't believe it was anything to do with me. She kept saying it's just coincidence. So I said I must be the unluckiest person on the planet. It happens everywhere I go.
What's actually going wrong? How soon was it before the medical profession actually agreed that this wasn't just you being a hypochondriac, imagining that there was something wrong, and that indeed there is something wrong?
I moved to another part of Harrogate, and when I moved, the doctor I had I couldn't use up here, so I had to get a new doctor. He was far more approachable, far more acceptable that there may be a tangible problem. And through that, I started looking on the internet, and I found several things, but this was the one that ticked every box. So I asked, could I be tested for it? And I was tested for it, and it proved to be it.
And what's actually going wrong inside you? I mean, I'm assuming that as a bright man, you've actually studied it and found out where what's actually wrong with your body.
I'm far from an expert, but what I know of it, and what, you know, the doctors have told me, a normal right, we all eat food with choline in.
Choline?
Choline, yeah, choline is like, it's a brain food, you know, it makes all the cells grow. And we all need it. So you have to have a certain amount just to survive. However, a lot of things are high in it, and, you know, they're the ones that are worse for me. But basically, everybody turns this choline into trimethylaminuria, and then a normal person can change that into an oxide. However, my body can't, so it just comes out of my cells as a foul stench.
And just how foul is it? I mean, what can you tell us? I mean, you talked about people in restaurants saying, I'm sorry, but I can't bear to be in here, yeah. Which must leave you feeling socially very, very difficult indeed. Are there other instances of people detecting this?
Oh, yeah, endless.
Go on, then, tell us.
Well, people say, they've called it garbage, open drains, much worse than that, which I won't say, but you can imagine. The thing is, nobody's ever said you smell like fish. It's a bit of a misnomer, you know. Yeah, I smell like a dead fish, you know, rotting.
Horrible thing for you to have to put up with. And as I say, you've talked about the reaction that you've had from people in restaurants before now. Are there other instances where you suddenly realise that people are detecting this smell?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some bad ones. Once in a lift, we got in on the ground floor. Somebody got in on the first floor, and he smiled and said hello. And then he sort of looked at us, and then he turned round, took a deep breath, held his face, and jumped out at the next stop.
How does that leave you feeling? I mean, you sound... I can imagine that most of us would be in a state of deep distress about this, and you sound very relaxed about it, but I should imagine that inside you can't be.
I'm relaxed with having it. It's not my fault that I've got it, you know, so I want people to know that it's just an illness. You know, I can't help this, and the thing is because I smell like this, I want to be able to get on with my life. I'm not a reclusive type of person. I'm a very outgoing person, and I've got lots of friends. But at the same time, if people don't know what it is, then I can't bear being there.
Right, so it's the fact that people are puzzled or offended by it without appreciating quite what you're going through.
Exactly.